College showed me that I suck at getting laid, and I'm pretty good at Chinese. That's basically 4 years in a nutshell.
Okay.
And so I graduate from the Air Force Academy with a majoring in foreign area studies and minoring in Chinese language. And then I have a really deep understanding of Chinese economics and Chinese political and military industrial complex, et cetera, because it's a military school. And the Air Force directs me into space and missiles. So space and missiles is one of the two main categories for future generals. Generals either become pilots or they go into the space and missile field. So I had no intention of being a general. I think the reason I got put into space and missiles was just because I had Chinese language, and a lot of our missiles were pointed at China at the time. So I think that's kind of how that worked, and that was okay with me. So then I suck at being a soldier just as much as I sucked at being a military cadet student, right? So the military was just not a good we don't get along, me and the military. We don't get along. So I get out as quickly as I can. So my 4-year military career, it had some high points. I was blessed again, man. Like I just don't have a better way of putting it. I was in the right place at the right time to get a couple of choice opportunities that broke some records, right? I became the youngest military officer to take control of a nuclear ICBM wing in Montana. Wasn't because I did anything right. It was because the guy who was in charge of the wing of the guy who was in charge of command post was getting promoted early. And when it came time for him to pick who he was going to nominate to fill his role, there was nobody between us. So he just nominated me.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it's not like I was like trying for the achievement. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I did a good enough job. The guy was like, "Oh yeah, you can do this." And I was like,
no pressure. No pressure.
So it looks good on paper.
Yeah.
It was kind of boring in real life. But anyways, so 2007 comes, I put captain, I get to the rank of captain, and then I put in my paperwork to leave the military. And at this point, I'm burned out, right? I should have never gone to the military academy. I should have never graduated from the military academy. I sure as hell should have never been a military officer. Like, real military officers are an amazing breed. They are loyal and responsible and sacrifice their own families to serve the United States, right? I didn't want to sacrifice anything. I didn't even want to give up my weekends. It was hard for me, dude. So I wanted to do the exact opposite. So when I started going through my head and asking myself, what is the polar opposite of the military? And we've all done this because we've all had a breakup. It's like having that girlfriend that you break up with where you're like, she was so good and the breakup is so bad. I'm going to go in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah.
She was a brunette. I need a blonde.
Yes.
She was older than me. I need a girl that's like 10 years younger than me. Like, we go in the complete opposite direction. Maybe what we should really do is just tweak it. Like
a little pivot.
Like 5 degrees. But instead we make a 180 degree turn. So what's 180 degrees away from the military? I start looking for the Peace Corps.
Shit.
And I'm like, I'm going to go help starving children in Zimbabwe. And I'm going to find a hippie chick and we're going to have tent sex.
Here we go.
And it's going to be awesome, right? I'm going to save the world. And I'm going to friggin' listen to reggae and smoke pot and grow my hair out. And it's going to be glorious. So I apply to go to the Peace Corps. And in that process of applying to the Peace Corps, I trigger some kind of recruitment person at CIA who kind of taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey, we saw that you're applying to the Peace Corps. How would you feel about other opportunities?" And like any good 27-year-old guy, I'm like, "Other opportunities?
Okay.
Let's hear about those."
Wow. That is the Peace Corps, the CIA. It sounds pretty different.
It sounds different until you think about what they do, right? So what does a Peace Corps officer do? A Peace Corps officer puts himself in an uncomfortable situation in a foreign land with no resources, trying to achieve the impossible. What does a CIA officer do? Put themselves in a comfortable situation with very few resources in a foreign land with almost no chance of success, right?
Wow.
Like the psychology is almost the same. It's really just down to the principles that are different, right? A Peace Corps person who's truly focused on peace would never work at CIA.
Yeah.
And a CIA officer who's truly focused on American primacy and at all costs would never go to the Peace Corps, right? For me, I wasn't ideologically driven. I went to the military looking for hot chicks.
Yes.
I was going to the Peace Corps looking for hot chicks. Dude. I just thought the hot chicks are going to be in Nigeria and Zimbabwe, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
That's where they're going to be.
That's the best place to look. Shit, man. So how do you go? Like, how do you go from the Peace Corps? Like, what was like how do you? Sorry, man. It just they're on paper, yeah, they might seem similar, but in theory, I think they are different, or maybe it's the other way, right? So, what made you say, okay, I'm gonna fucking do this?
My inner 8-year-old came back.
Shit.
Right where we started this story. Right? There I was. I'm gonna be a police officer. I'm gonna be a soldier. I'm gonna be a fireman. I'm gonna be a spy. Yeah. And then someday somebody looks at you and says, "How would you feel about being a spy?" How do you say no to that?
Dude.
You don't say no to that. People do not say no to that invitation. You can always say yes and change your mind later. But to say no when they offer, at least I didn't do that. And everybody that I served with, when we had these come to Jesus moments with each other, they were like, fuck no, I'm not going to say no to that.
No.
There must be people who do say no.
Of course.
And then they go on to do, wonderful things somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the people that CIA wants in their hallways, the people they want serving together on these impossible missions, those are not the people who say no when they get that invitation.
Freedom! So fresh on me. Freedom!